Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the vlog. My name is Adira Ganga. Here we discuss media, business, and lifestyle. Today, as you can see, I'm not alone. I'm very honored to have my former boss, who I look up to, really love, and respect. You need an introduction. I was about to say your name, and then I remembered you are the boss lady of business.
No, but we can't assume.
No.
Yeah, so I need an introduction.
So her name is TerryAnne Chebet, a business journalist, media maven, an entrepreneur, a mom, among so many other things.
Yes.
First thing, I introduce you and you say you still need an introduction.
Yeah.
Why are you still so humble after over 20 years in the media industry?
Because I think, humility is what keeps us going. No matter how much you think people know you, you can't always assume that everybody knows you.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just polite.
Yeah.
And I've been raised polite, and I've always been polite.
Yeah. Every time I tell people that I work at Metropol, particularly when we were together at Metropol, the first question I always get is, "Oh, you were working with TerryAnne Chebet. How is it like working with her?" And they say,
and what do you say?
I say nice things, but among the things I say she is the best person to work with, because instead of telling you what to do, she equips you with the tips and tools and enables you to be able to do it. The second week at Metropol, I bumped into you in the corridor and Ajay was coming up and you wanted us to submit a story, and I didn't know how it was going to happen, but you ensured that everything we needed along the way was provided. Why did you choose that style of leadership?
I've been lucky to have leaders and bosses who have basically taught me what leadership is. And having a boss like Washira Oruru, who was my boss at not only KBC but Citizen as well, twice, Farida Karone, and these are people that I really, really look up to in terms of their style of leadership. And I learned so much from them. And I always said, if I would be half the leader that they were, then I would really make a big difference. And I know in my own little way, I still believe that I have made an impact. But it's leadership that makes people, and it's leadership that builds people. It's leadership that makes you see what this person is, what their strength is, and how different they are from other, from their peers, so to speak. So for me, it's what I've been taught about leadership, and knowing that a position of management is not a place to be bossy and shove yourself around.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to grow other people, which is the experience I've had in the past.
Mm-hmm. And your media career has it's been that growth trajectory that everybody can look up to, because you started as a news reporter, then grew to an anchor, worked with international news, and then to media, like being general manager in a media house. Talk to us about that growth trajectory.
I always say that the ceiling for a journalist is very low, especially when it comes to management. So I actually started off as a producer, because I'm a trained TV producer. I wanted to be a film producer.
Yeah.
So I did a bit of that at KBC, where I produced a children's show. And then there was an opening on the news anchor's side, which was honestly not something I was very keen on, but it was the only way we could get a sort of permanent job at KBC.
Yeah.
So everyone who was like an intern, they used to call us artists, was like, so all the producers were telling us, you have to apply. So we all applied, including Kanzedena, Ali, the current, more or less known for Jicho Pevu, Mohammed, and a few other people, Monica Kiragu as well. No, she got in as a producer. So a couple of us applied, and then the journey began. So that took me into anchoring, although even then I was an anchor in the evening, but I was a producer during the day. And then later on got into CNBC, and at that point I actually wanted to quit journalism completely.
Why?
Just before I got into into CNBC, because I started working in advertising.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely enjoyed. Then CNBC came to town as I was making a transition into advertising. But then the money was better at CNBC. I was basically going to get a salary that covered both my evening anchoring at KBC and my day job at the ad agency. And I had a small child. So I said, okay, instead of doing this 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. days, why can't I take a job that will give me a salary that covers both, but then I work 8 to 5. So then I had, more time with my child as well. So that's why I took the CNBC job.
Yeah.
However, at that point, I was like, I'm done with this media. I'm really enjoying advertising. I was a client service executive at an advertising agency called Express DDB. And I was really, really having a good time.
Yeah.
But then CNBC came, and then I embraced business journalism. I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah.
Well, initially it was scary and intimidating because you go into the fields, you have people, interviewing the central bank governor, and you have no idea what they're talking about.
I know a thing or two about that. Sometimes business, you go to the field and you have no idea what these people are talking about, but they still expect a story.
Yeah, exactly. And then they expect, well, the people you're interviewing will either look at you as if, does she really know what she's talking about? Like I had an interview with the central bank governor, Professor Njuguna Njoroge, Njuguna Ndungu, way back. And I remember looking, I had done my questions, I'd done my research.
Yeah.
It was not a conversation, it was a Q&A.
Yeah.
Like I have a question, you answer, I move to the next one. Because I had no idea what he was talking about. And it was one of my first interviews at CNBC. And there was monetary policy and all these other things he was talking about. And I'm like, thank you, sir. And I moved to the next question. Because I'm like, we can't have a conversation about this. But then he taught me a lot about really taking advantage of learning. So I remember my former boss told me, TerryAnne, I can tell that you're not reading. Like you're not watching what's happening globally. So he told me, tell your boss you want The Economist every week, Harvard Business Review, and Newsweek.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
This was now a Shira. So I told my boss, my mentor has asked me if we can get these 3 magazines. He's like, yeah, perfect. It would be great for everybody else in the office. So every week we'd get the Newsweek and The Economist. The HBR was a monthly publication at that time. And you see, because everything in the business space, there's almost always an angle that touches on what's happening globally that you can relate to locally. Even the performance of the shilling. I mean, all these things. If oil is going this way, there's an impact somewhere. Or even if there's something happening with the shilling here, you can compare what's happening with currencies globally, which I hadn't really thought about until he told me that. So with that, and having people who are constantly, pushing me into excellence and watching to see, are you really doing your homework? If you're there, then you have to give it your all.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting journey of learning, and then, of course, losing my job in 2016. And after that, now transitioning, just going back to your question, transitioning into management. And one of the things that I constantly told myself is, yes, I may have been, kicked out, so to speak, but it doesn't take my experience away. And if we look at the business journalism space, especially at that time, there was not many people who had the experience that I did. Yeah. So I said, why am I going to another media house as a journalist? Yeah, I know how it's done. I helped set up the business desk at, other media houses. I was the first reporter for CNBC Africa when they set up here. So I said, I know a thing or two about setting up. So when the opportunities came, I'm actually the one who said, you know what, I've done this ABCD in this place, I've done this here. Using my experience, I must be the best person for the job. So it was taking it by force, because sometimes I think we need to.
Yeah.
We need to, because how many journalists have actually made it into management, especially if you're a news anchor?
Very few.
None, almost.
Yeah, because news anchors are not presumed to...
Exactly. Oh, blonde, she just reads from the auto cue. And I'm like, that's very unfair, to be honest. Because we've got some very smart people. But it's as if the ceiling just ends here in the newsroom. And before you even crack it to be an editor, because it's like the pathway is the same. You become an editor, editor-in-chief, whatever, editorial director, maybe then CEO or whatever. But that path, before you breakthrough, especially as a woman.
Exactly.
It's almost impossible.
And that's what was so interesting. I've been lucky enough. This Metropol is my second job. My first boss was a woman. My second boss was a woman. And it gives me hope that maybe one day I might also sit in media management. But how did you come to that place where you're like, there's this space and I'm going to take it up?
It was a lot of first kujiamini.
Yeah.
Just the courage to say I can do it. And then looking around and saying, who else would I want to work for? And I was like, in a business media house, which both of the channels that I worked for in management were, yes, there are some people that, would have done a great job, but they were either in corporate, in PR, and moved into other spaces. And I said, then it's just me. So it was a lot of self-confidence and saying, I know what it would take to take business journalism where it should go.
Yeah.
In terms of, there's a big journalism of like where the international channels are. But as a country, business journalism is still where needs to be where the masses are. Because we're an entrepreneurial country. We're a country where everybody's a hustler. You have this, but you have this, you have this, you have this.
Yeah.
So we need to speak to those people. Because eventually, the global business media houses are, practically their core business is the stock market.
Yes.
Internationally. So it's the New York Stock Exchange, it's the London Stock Exchange, it's the, Asian markets. But we're not there yet. And for us to get our country into a place where our stock market is actually big, then it has to be the retailers who are today the me and you. People who can buy, Safaricom stock, maybe 10K, 5K. But we have to grow that market to get to a place where it's a regular investment for everybody. And until we get there, we cannot keep shoving people with corporate news.
Yeah.
So-and-so posted this, so-and-so, their results are this. I'm like, if I'm selling my clothes on Instagram, why should I care? Why a listed company has posted X result. It's none of it. I don't care. I don't invest in it. So only when we get the regular Kenyan to get to a place where they can invest in the stock markets is then we can get to big journalism.
Yeah.
Otherwise, for now, big journalism is just for a very small niche of Kenyans, which is why sometimes I say some of these very high-end business journalism magazines will never really survive in this market. The ones that will survive are the ones that target the hustler crowd, even the TV stations as a whole. As long as we aspire to be this international TV channels, in the style of reporting, we'll never make it.
Yeah.
We'll never make it. We have to start where we are with the news that the Kenyan masses are looking for, which is not usually news. It's either entrepreneurial stories, it's education around investment. So we have to grow with that audience. And then now get to big business. So for me, there was that. I had seen it through my years as a business journalist, and I knew what it would take for Kenyans to pay attention to business journalism. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's why I said I think I'm the best person for the job, because I knew that this is what needs to be done.
Yeah. And speaking of entrepreneurship and media, some time back you decided that you're gonna temporarily, because you're a cat with 9 lives, you are going to temporarily hang your media boots to focus on business. Talk to us about that transition.
Mm-hmm. And actually, that's the reason why I handed in my resignation, because I said where I want to go